So hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So for the second time today, I am here at GAC Motors and I would like to thank Sir Jhonel for making this test drive review earlier with the GAC Empow GB. Link of that will be in the description down below. I have a lot to say with that car during the test drive, so please, I highly recommend that video. But for the second time today, yet again, I'm here with this Empow. None other than the GS base model. Yeah, so appearance wise they look exactly the same, and as you can tell, like with the GB, this part is still silver grayish, but if you get the GE top of the line version, this one's all yellow now. So exactly the same face, gloss black grille over here, and somewhat functioning vents over here, ground clearance 140 millimeters. Yet again, check out my test drive on what I said about this ground clearance. And the biggest difference, you can tell that this is the base model, are the wheels and tires. So these are 16-inch alloy wheels and different sets of tires. So with the GB, they are GT compact tires, but for this one, it's Atlas AS380. Never heard of that brand. And on the side profile, pretty much the same too. My favorite part with all Empows, you get carbon fiber-ish on the side mirrors. I'm not sure if these are real or not. And the same chrome bit here on the C-pillar. The rear, exactly the same too. Same amount of boot space, pretty decent too in its class. So powering the Empow, like all the Empows, it's a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that produces 168 horsepower and 270 Newton meters. So they are all mated to a 7-speed wet type dual clutch transmission. So the biggest difference now with this GS base model is in the interior. So this is the interior of the Empow GS base model. Sounds pretty much the same with the GB Empow. Despite still being a base model, you still have a start-stop button over here. So let's start it up. Another surprise too with this base model, you have the exact same instrument cluster and infotainment system. So these are the shots from the Empow GB middle variant. It is exactly the same. And what I like too with this base model, like with the GB and I assume the top of the line now, you can still do this feature. You can open all windows in the infotainment system. Exactly the same functions like in the GB middle variant too. That's so cool. So yet again, same instrument cluster and probably same fuel economy too. I keep teasing that GB test drive because it's probably one of the best sports sedans in its class. So please click that review after this video. So another main difference too with this GS base model, there's no sunroof. Little bit of a bummer for me, but I don't mind either having with or without sunroof. So despite again being a base model, you still have the same set of air conditioning controls. Like the GB, it's still manual. I assume the GE top of the line has different sets of controls. The center console here is exactly the same. There's carbon fiber around it. And again, underneath, you have two USB ports and a 12-volt socket and an extra cubby space. Here in the center, exactly the same layout, two cup holders and your exposed center console box. I love this center console box. It's still leather. Along here with the door cards, still have that carbon fiber wrap around the door handle and leather with red stitching on the pads here for your elbows. Cubby spaces, bottle holders on each side with a big bottle here easily, and somewhat same controls here on the left side. There's one blank button here only. And yeah, like my nitpick with the GB middle variant, you have to open the boot either in here or in the key fob. There's no button itself on the boot. And steering wheels somewhat the same. So this is where things get a little bit different now with this base model. So you only have cruise control here, unlike the GB and GE, which gets adaptive cruise control, but steering wheel still feels pretty much the same. And the wipers too. I mean, all of them have wipers, but this GS only gets manual operating wipers, unlike with the rain sensing of the GB and the GE. And how you can tell this is the base model from the interior are these seats. They look exactly the same like with the GB and GE variants, but these are all now on fabrics. Surprisingly, I found out if you sit here in the fabric compared with the leather of the GB, this one cools down really quickly compared with the leather. And being the base model too, there are no advanced driving assistance systems and there are not much of safety features too. Just put it here on screen. And unlike the GB middle variant too, this GS variant only gets 2 speakers. So at the rear too, another thing you can tell, this is the base model. There's no air conditioning vent here and no USB port for the second row. There's only a cubby space left here, but at least they still made space for this as well. Seats there in the back, are all fabric too. Space, exactly the same. Probably the best one in its class. I have to confirm that when I get my hands again on a Honda Civic. So, being the base model now, this one costs 1,225,000 pesos. So, this is 80,000 pesos less than that of the GB variant which I've driven. So, is this worth it? I gotta say, yeah. It's still got everything I need. I know the seats aren't leather anymore. I mean, it's still good, still on the sportier side of things, but gotta be honest, the GB just feels a little bit more plusher. However, if you're on a budget, this GS base model will very much do. And what I never knew about too with the Empows, there's no manual mode in the gear shifts. So the DCT will work on its own, but still, it is very, very nice to drive. So yeah, that concludes my walk around review of this GAC Empow GS. I'd like to thank again Sir Jhonel, flash these contact details over here, and to GAC Motors Pasig for making this walk around review possible. So hopefully there will be one more special thing I'll do here at GAC Motors Pasig. So stay tuned for that. So, hope you guys like and subscribe, and I will see you with more GAC motor reviews. Bye-bye.